So, welcome back to Care Decoded, the show where we simplify the complex world of documentation, coding, and clinical AI to power better care. I'm your host, Dr. Sunil Nihalani. I'm the CEO of Inferscience. And today we are diving into a topic that's transforming the practice of medicine, AI in clinical care, and how physicians can prepare to lead, not follow in this revolution. So joining me today is Dr. Hassan Bencheqroun, who is a physician, I believe a critical care pulmonary specialist, an innovator. He's also the host of the AI Ready Doctor podcast, and he's the founder of Med AI Academy, which is a platform helping clinicians understand, adopt, and harness AI responsibly. So Dr. Bencheqroun, welcome to Care Decoder.
It is a delight and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, and same to you, sir. All right, so let's get started. So we'll start with part one, which is the why of AI in medicine and clinical care. So, Dr. B, you've been both a physician and a builder in the AI space. So tell us what inspired you to create the Med AI Academy and your podcast, the AI Ready Doctor.
I appreciate you asking. Thank you. Medical AI Academy or Med AI Academy was an initiative that I took because I realized, and we do have now surveys that show that physicians whom we thought were going to be afraid of AI are actually not afraid of AI. They're just unprepared. AI was entering the exam rooms, but it had not entered medical training yet. And it was in lectures and any conference that I go to spoken above our heads in non-clinical terms. And I saw something being redone again, which is what we have lived with the electronic medical record. Some tools made for us without us. And that pushed me to say, let one of us speak to the rest of us in terms we can understand how AI can enter our relationship between patients and physicians. We don't need to be techs. We just need to have a technological mindset. So that's what motivated me in bridging that gap where physicians felt one more time lost into new innovation without anything to train them for it.
Great. No, I think there's definitely a space there. And you pointed out the how things happen with EMRs. And I think we are still seeing the reverberations of that, right? In terms of somebody built it for us without asking us what we need. So there's a lot of burnout related to EHRs, right? So yeah, I'm glad you are doing this so we don't make the same mistake again. So anyway, there's still a lot of fear and skepticism amongst physicians about AI, from job displacement to loss of autonomy. So why do you think these fears persist, and how do we replace them with trust and literacy?
What a wonderful question. It isn't that doctors fear AI. What we fear is losing control over decisions that we are still held responsible for. Every major fear about AI disappears once we understand how the model thinks. But just because a model is correct does not mean that it belongs in healthcare. If I can't explain why an answer is correct, I can't supervise it, and I will be held responsible for the output. So what we are seeing right now is not just an AI adoption and literacy, but we doctors are asked to sign the note. And so liability and responsibility has shifted. People just like to bring shiny programs and wave at us what they can do. But at the end, the disclaimer is you're still responsible for the output. And so any program that comes to say to us, we're going to save you pajama time, what I refer to is all of the burnout that we got from electronic medical records, from documentation, from billing, from coding. All of these unfortunate steps that we had lost our life to, we have all of these AI tools coming and saying to us, we're going to save you that time. But the truth is, we moved that time from creating notes to proofreading those notes, from creating bills to proofreading the bills. And that just does not, we are too smart for us to be moved this way. So AI literacy, while this is the new clinical literacy, means that we will be holding accountable all of these companies and big institutions that are putting in our workflow new tools to accountability. and say, what problem is this tool solving? How is this helping my patient? How is this reducing the responsibility for output that was never mine?
Yeah, no, I think you make a very valid point, especially what you said about instead of writing the note, proofreading, but that also takes its time, right? Because, and then the AI does this editorializing, right? I mean, it doesn't just document what the patient said, it's making judgments, right? And then you have to go back and correct that. So I think definitely room for improvement with these AI scribes is what you and I are referring to, I think. So yeah, absolutely, it hits home. So, and I think you kind of alluded to this, but you've spoken about moving from AI curiosity to AI fluency. So what does that look like in real practice? And can you share an example how AI is already helping physicians make faster or safer decisions?
Interestingly enough, the 3 stages that I call are necessary for physicians to move through are AI awareness, then AI fluency, then AI literacy, none of which require any tech knowledge. I don't need to understand how my car works from the engineering perspective to know the necessary elements to navigate my car safely around. Similarly, I do not need to understand the basics of coding to understand how AI will interface with me and my patient. So, if AI is going to improve my face to face time with my patient while preserving their safety based on our oath, then we are welcoming that. But if it's going to deepen the screen time, then it has no belonging in our life. When I mean AI fluency, if I am going to use a tool and I start to ask it questions in inconsequential days and times and situations, such as summarize something or help me plan my trip to a conference, now see the outputs and how, when I change the way I talk to AI, that we call prompt, the output and the response is different. Now, when I translate that in an AI tool within a consequential situation affecting a patient, I'm going to use that knowledge in order to understand how it might affect my patients. For example, something funny that this weekend I was preparing for this episode and I went on Reddit and I asked a question in a medical subreddit forum and said, if you have used a ambient scribe, could you share with me real examples of hallucinations? I was astounded at the response. Over 27,000 views, over 870 upvotes, dozens of comments. Everyone had their own story about hallucinations. Someone you examined and says cardiac exam is normal, and the output is EKG is normal. Someone who you said breast exam is normal, turns out mammography is normal. These are not just anecdotes, these are real threats to our liability and to the patients themselves, which means that we have to be extremely meticulous at supervising. And that therein lies the responsibility. We move to supervision. And so while fluency means that it is good for the workflow, we still have to be fluent in how AI works in order for us to become very good at it and protect ourselves or our patients.
You're right. We have to be very vigilant. And otherwise, you might be signing on to something that you never intended to, and then your name is on it. So you're absolutely right. So, from your perspective, what separates an AI tool that truly supports care from one that just adds noise to the work?
Artificial intelligent tools are abounding right now, both in scribe, clinical decision support, but 2026 will see agents add themselves to the workflow. A good AI respects my workflow, inserts itself in it, and keeps the momentum going without taking the spotlight off of the patient. A bad AI demands attention, takes away time from the patient into supervising it. Another bad AI is a tool that can't explain why it made a suggestion. If it doesn't explain why it's correct, it doesn't belong in medicine. I have created a list that we know, which are the items when we review a study or a manuscript that makes a study a bad one. For example, if you have unclear endpoints, if you have a small sample size, if you have a bias in choosing the study population. And then I compared it now to a list that we haven't been trained on, but it's equivalent, which are how to spot a bad AI. Same thing. Has the AI been tested in real world or only in experimental? What is the AI trained on? Is it in patients that mimic my own patient population? I give the example of one of my friends who asked two AIs how to help her with a conflict with her spouse. One told her, leave him. He doesn't deserve you. The other one says the basis of conflict is 1, 2, 3. If you approach it with this framework, and when she asked, what is the training data set for those models? The first one was on love novels. The second one was on human resources manuals. So you can see the training data set is absolutely major when it comes to the output. So if noise happens, it's because it was a solution looking for a problem. When we're looking for tools for our workflow, let's look for the problems and then work backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does any particular tool stand up, is prominent in your mind that, yeah, this is really how it should be and it really helps me? Anything you can say about that?
The one that almost 80% of physicians have used so far is the ambient scribe tools. They are the closest to use, and there are many of them. I like a couple of them that I've used a lot, such as the one made by Doximity and the one made by Open Evidence. They are free for physicians and clinicians, and they have a list of references so that way you can look at them at the point of care. You can verify the output. Still, even those, when you use them, you still have to look at the output. And what it feels, it's almost like you are supervising a medical student. It has yet to graduate to a resident or fellow level when it comes to the assessment and plan. Our decisions live in gray zones of nuance, and AI, while it has good reasoning and good confidence in answering, still has a long time to go before that.
You're right. I think in general, even in other non-medical cases where I've used AI, that's the impression I get. It's like a junior intern, right? You said medical intern, medical student, same thing. But yeah, the nuances where I think there's a lot of room for improvement, I think.
Indeed.
Yep. So let's move on to talking about precision policy ethics. So, we are at Inferscience, our products are related to risk adjustment, which, majority of the Medicare population is in these Medicare Advantage plans, right? So we have a special focus on that. And you might have heard that CMS, or Centers for Medicare Services, is accelerating the use of AI in audits and data validation. So where do you see the biggest regulatory and ethical challenges emerging for AI in healthcare?
I had a full hour lecture on the ethics of AI, from biases that are magnified by AI to predictive analytics, crossing over to insurances and payment systems to make decisions on patients based on probability rather than humanity. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is AI being used to deny services or to gauge the service validity and even to audit physicians before it's here to fully support them. Unfortunately, that's one of the ethical tensions. I also see that AI that you give an output for, 35-year-old female of this ethnic background presents with dyspnea, and you do the same output, but you just change one variable, gender or ethnic background, the output is completely different, and it is indeed referring to the biases within the healthcare system. There was several studies, not just one, but one that I take, for example, where experimentally they used an AI to see what the recommendations are. And if someone is of affluent background, more sophisticated technological tests are ordered. If someone is from the LGBTQ plus, 6 to 7 times mental health referrals. Everything else equal. So we are taking biases that we have painstakingly proven in our systems and now magnifying them in an overconfident way. And on the other side, we have a physician struggling with fluency and literacy, trying to see how they can supervise a system that's sped up into their screens and their patients' exam rooms. Therein lies the ethical tension. So, if we don't help define guardrails, somebody else will define them without any clinical context. I wonder, have you used or seen the use of the Epic system AI, Cosmos, and others?
I don't know if it's Cosmos or not. What the in context of Epic, and I only see a few patients in the hospital. Mostly it's my outpatient practice, but I've seen where they give you a discharge summary, right? And overall, I think does a pretty decent job of doing it. But there again, also it makes these judgments and conclusions which are totally off the mark, right? So you again have to do the same thing as you said, supervise it closely and review it, proofread, as you said.
It's scary in the sense that in last year's conference where Cosmos, which is the AI platform for Epic, was released, it used a lot of predictive analytics to show the risk of an exacerbation of COPD, the risk of an MI in someone over the next 3, 4, 5 years. All of these predictive analytics showed very well. Unfortunately, they're on broken data sets because our system is messy in the real world. But also, imagine if it crosses over and a decision is made on prior authorization denied based on the higher probability that it may not work versus if it works. Who's making those decisions? We're struggling with them now. Can you imagine if those numbers enter the room of the decision making and we're not? That's some of the ethical tension that I'm preoccupied with.
Sure. Yeah. So on that track, what role can physicians play in shaping those ethical frameworks instead of, waiting for regulators or vendors to decide for them?
I love that you asked the question. And we start by something complex, but we come down to the basics. We need to get informed about how AI works so we can question it. If I do not understand bias, if I do not understand hallucinations, if I do not understand the basics of a prompt, how do you talk to AI, or context, asterixis and tremor are both handshaking, but each one of them have different contexts, and decisions being made by a language model will be based on the language used in that note. So if we don't understand these nuances, we will not be able to enter the room where it happens and ask the real questions. Whose data sets did you use this to? How did you validate this tool before deploying it? That's the kind of steps that we can take now so we can be ready when the decision is made or when we are called upon to stand there to protect our patients.
Absolutely. So, in other words, be in the room where the decisions are being made and ask lots of questions, right?
Informed questions.
Informed questions. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So, along those lines, again, you've said that every clinician needs tech mindset. So, what practical schools do you think training programs such as medical schools, health systems, or even individual physicians take to become truly AI ready?
We are seeing a shift in medical education that is huge. Knowledge now is at our fingertips. Everyone, including patients, which means that recall-based knowledge, which used to be the gauge by which we understand somebody is an expert, is not as strongly needed as the mindset that asks, should I trust the output from an AI? Not just, is it correct or is it verifiable? That's what's going to be the next training of medical students and residents. The other training is, we used to just say, I'll look it up when I'm home tonight. Not anymore. You can and should look it up at the patient's bedside and incorporate that decision. Use AI as a thinking buddy rather than a question and answer chatbot, much like we would use before. So medical education doesn't teach facts anymore. It has to teach supervision. And it is very urgent because how else could we supervise systems that are smarter than us, faster than us, and deployed in places where we are held responsible for their decision?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a paradigm shift, really. So we talked about, clinicians, training, etc. But how do you see the physician-patient relationship evolving in the coming years as AI becomes more embedded in diagnosis and treatment planning? And what does human empathy look like in an AI-augmented exam room?
So, this is my favorite question and my favorite one to answer. In fact, I put a article on my LinkedIn that was picked up by NPR, and I was interviewed for this very reason. Patients now, up to 23%, are using AI as their Dr. Google. It's now Dr. GPT. And we should not repeat what we did with Dr. Google, which is, oh, you're bringing me AI printouts? Well, then you don't need me as your doctor. We focus on AI search. We do not focus on they brought it to us part of the conversation. So the trust is still with us. We have to open our doors and say, bring me that output. I'll give you the context that AI might have missed. So what AI is doing is bringing the conversations together. AI may be good at empathy by many, many studies, but we are the ones who say the words. No patient will trust just AI in vulnerability moments. They still want doctors to be present, and AI is giving us back that presence, disconnecting our eyes from the computer to our patients. That you cannot put any money on. It's so precious. And I love that as far as AI, what it would do. We as physicians, we need to start learning how AI works before we enter the exam room so we are ready. I just posted yesterday that my New Year resolution is I'm creating and I'm dropping tomorrow actually small little snippets of videos, 2-3 minutes of one thing at a time. What is a prompt? What is a context? Which tool? Why is this tool better than the other? What is AI to begin with? What's generative AI? Just 2-3 minutes. And I'm hoping that that is one of many initiatives that we're seeing our colleagues, physician, help try to get each other across that line of we are here to protect our patients. And if it means having a tech mindset, so will we.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And that's great work that you're doing in terms of educating the physician community. So, last question, and you kind of alluded to that, but if you could deliver one message to clinicians who still feel overwhelmed by all this change, what would it be? How do you want them to think about AI? Not as disruption, but as empowerment?
I want them to think about AI as a second mindset that helps you think. What have I missed? How can I think through this clinical reasoning? What is the counter argument? This is not a tech revolution. It is a responsibility shift. We cannot afford to look away. So the AI ready doctor, the modern doctor, isn't the most technical. It is the most thoughtful. It is the one that likes to take the new technology and incorporate it. It doesn't mean we have to learn to code. It just means that we need to be ready.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Bencheqroun, thank you for an inspiring conversation. You have reminded us that AI isn't replacing doctors, it's redefining what we can do. So, thank you for that. And as we build this AI enabled future, it's clear that the most powerful innovation in medicine will not come from code or algorithms alone, it'll come from AI ready clinicians such as you who know how to use technology to deliver smarter and more compassionate care. So, if this episode resonated with you, the listener, please follow Care Decoded, share it with a colleague, and tune in the next time. And thank you again, Dr. Bencheqroun, for a very educating conversation.
Thank you for having me.